clear concept of unconditional love.
Well, you have to be a transcendentalist to really understand it.
Yeah.
It can be explained,
Yeah.
but then we're going to look at the explanation with our lens, which isn't the right lens. But how else are we going to look at it? We have to have something, a lens through which to look at it. So, yeah, an explanation is, well, it's not this, and it's not this, and it's not this, and it's not that. Okay, great. So what is it, please? There's no, using Bhaktisiddhanta's language, there's no separate interest. Or I use that phrase at the beginning. Sandarbhas Jiva Goswami, Bhajaniya Parama Purusha Sukha Sva Sukhatvam. That's what it is. Sva Sukhatvam, one's happiness is experiencing the happiness of Parama Purusha. That's love. And that's happiness. It's a definite, or the way that Prabhupada presents it specifically, and you can look it up later. Canto 2, Chapter 3, verse number 10, I think it is. He quotes that phrase. And the same language is used in Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Krishnadas Kaviraj is describing the love, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is describing the love of the gopis. That's love. Where their happiness is his happiness. Even if it brings them inconvenience, that's okay. His happiness is their happiness. So, you have something further.
Yeah,
unconditional love is.
Yeah, no, my understanding is like when I hear these phrases, it's from the devotee side. That's what unconditional love means, from the giver of the love. It is the unconditional love and receive, like how we define Krishna's love as unconditional. That I think that was more of my question.
But he's just reciprocating with each of us. That's from his side. That was outlined by Kunti and the commentary about his equanimity. What is this? Here it is. Here. In whom there's no conflict, because the Lord gives suffering and bliss. He is equal and unprejudiced, and unmerciful and merciful. He's neutral, but the position isn't a numb kind of neutral. It's a loving kind of neutral. And it's going back to what she was speaking about, Kala. He's the witness, and witness, he's neutral. You can say he's also not only witness, he's a judge and jury, and his decisions are final. But he's perfect and fair, and so that's his neutrality. He's forever inviting, in the language of Sri Brahma Samhita, he's forever inviting the conditioned soul to come to him. But if they say no, he's neutral. He doesn't take revenge. They said no, okay, I'll show you a smack. No. It's not a place of happiness. Please come. No. Okay. So according to your desire. It's reciprocating with the desire, the use of the free will of the living entity completely. That's from his side. Okay? Yes. Only one.
Especially when you mentioned
you
about
usually have two or three.
Freedom based on the gunas. if we are in the mode of goodness, the more freedom is given,
More.
or more
But it's wait. That's
mercy.
Okay, I'm getting editing already. It's not. Mode of goodness is also bondage. It's another one of the gunas, another one of the ropes. Okay, so go. That's just editing. It's not unlimited. It's limited, but more. Go ahead.
Being in the mode of goodness will be getting more freedom, or will be getting Krishna's mercy.
Well, both. Why differentiate like that?
With having more freedom, or talking to myself, like we will be going away from Krishna more.
No. Why? Because you have freedom, you go away. You get more freedom because you can properly exercise it. Having developed that mode, you're entitled to more freedom because you'll use it wisely.
And
Yeah, I see it. Here's the second question. Go ahead.
partiality and impartiality of Krishna is understood through material nature, and then is the impartial.
It's our perception. It's our perception through the agency of material nature. We see partial, impartial. That he's impartial. That he's not. He doesn't. I like you. I don't like you.
Is impartial to everyone.
Yeah.
And through his Bhagavan feature, where he is partial to devotees, his devotees.
Oh, you're tricky. He also reciprocates. Let's do this. The Bhagavan. There's the washerman. The words that Krishna spoke to the washerman are almost identical with the words that he spoke to the florist. They responded differently. And so one result for the florist, another result for the washerman. Now, was he partial? No. The washerman got liberation. And then the florist got Krishna. But it's their attitude, not his partiality.
Living entities.
That's the Bhagavan feature. Up front, we have a second microphone.
Hare Bol Maharaj, Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, I was the predestined is spiritual life predestined.
Yeah.
So I was just what my thoughts were, what I understood is the choices we make in spiritual life. So sometimes we even bring the material conceptions and see, oh, if I have this degree or that degree, I'm progressing. Or so, how do we take out that thing? I don't know. I'm just understanding from that.
That you at least two, maybe three things in one question. You started with destiny.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think I got mixed
Yeah,
up.
they're kind of put in a popcorn bag and you mount it. Let's do what very clear explanation is. Destiny is but the consequence of our regard for Krishna, our choices in relation to Krishna, and as the witness or time factors, Paramatma, we make these or those free will choices, and in reciprocation with these or those free will choices, then there's events that are destined by our choices or overseen by Super Soul according to our choices. But it's our choices. That's the operative principle. And that's the operative principle in bhakti as well. So And that's the destiny part. Then I was expecting to hear more on the destiny part. Then you said this other thing. Can you say the other thing again?
Try to bring the material conceptions also, like, oh, I'm progressing if I have a degree, or not
Yes.
the degree, or
Okay.
if I have this certificate, or
Yes. Okay.
I did this many books, or I
Yeah.
did this service, some
Okay.
title we look for. If you don't have that, I don't know, I'm just thinking that. So is
So what?
that linking our progress, or
To benchmarks of progress?
yeah?
Well, let's do two things. As you know, a certificate doesn't mean progress. While we have that system in ISKCON, it does. It's to help. It's to help us in our sadhana, particularly to acknowledge. I mean, this is what it's meant for. May do something else for different people, but to acknowledge you've undergone the ordeal or the difficulty or the effort to comprehend something. Bhakti Shastri certificate, or like for initiation, the ISKCON disciple certificate, ISKCON disciple course, IDC. That's a nice acronym. So it's a fundamental principle. You know, there are different ways of describing these different certificates and things, but it's not a benchmark of progress. Someone can pass. I know somebody that's an IDC instructor. Somebody couldn't pass it because they just couldn't understand it, and they got initiated anyways. That was, means they like something's missing, and that didn't happen anyways. So it's not a measure of progress, but it's some kind of acknowledgement of you've undergone some effort, and at least a passable grasp of the subject. And it's good to do those things. For me, the certificate isn't the essence. It's the having undergone the effort that's the essence. For example, for a number of years, many spiritual masters in ISKCON they require having completed Bhakti Shastri and you have a certificate. I'm not interested in a certificate. I'm interested in they complete the study. Because I know people that have their certificate and they're proud, or abusive, or they don't have the character that matches the knowledge. Maybe you know some people like that too. For me, that's a big issue. I mean, it's not a minor issue, it's a big issue. I'm going to control myself and not get on my soapbox and make a big speech about it. But for me, it's a big issue. The future of ISKCON could be spoiled by people who get certificates and then become abusive because they've got a certificate. I call it entitlement. Without going into it, I see a danger. The beast called pride. An entitlement because whatever it might be, maybe they don't have certificates. Maybe it's just, I'm a devotee for X amount of time and I'm entitled. Anyway, so you're looking for, yes, there are material ways of looking at things, and there are spiritual ways of looking at the same thing. So the issue is the consciousness behind, or the sincerity behind the act, not the act and the recognition of the act or the absence of recognition of the act. It's the Krishna consciousness, or the sincerity of purpose, the wanting to see the happiness of Krishna purpose, which is, at the heart, Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. You all know the phrase. That's at the heart of bhakti. It's the intention that Krishna should be pleased. Is that okay? Okay. You have something.
Good Maharaj, this is not my question. This is his question. He just want me to ask it.
Oh, I intimidated him. Oh. I'm sorry.
Maharaj, this is about the verse that Queen Kunti says that Krishna can be approached by one who is materially exhausted. Yeah. So his question is, how can one get to that position of being materially exhausted?
It's simple. In principle, it's simple. Getting there is maybe a little not so simple. As long as there is an expectation that happiness is over there in La La Land. The La La Land, that's my word for saying senses, meet sense objects, buzz, enjoyment. If there's happiness in senses meeting sense objects, that's not materially exhausted. So finding happiness within, from Bhagavad Gita, the verse in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, Pram drishtva nivartate. You know the verse? Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinam raso bharjam raso pyasya pram drishtva nivartate. You familiar with that verse? You've heard it. Okay. One is out there, the other is in here. Vishaya, sense enjoyment. For Vishaya vinivartante nira harasha dehinam. What the soul that's within the deha is the dehi. So the embodied soul who wants to find happiness through sense enjoyment, Vishaya, they struggle. But they can go beyond the struggle. This is the question you asked. How do you get there? By finding happiness within. When there's this happiness within, then you're not looking for happiness somewhere else. You're Atmarama, that's self-satisfied. So how do you get there? That's your question. And that is through devotional service, where it's a genuine happiness, but the genuine happiness is not circumstantial. If it's circumstantial, then you're not, materially exhausted. You're still thinking there's some happiness out there. I just have to configure it the right way. Then I get happiness.
Knowledge of happiness.
Yes, that's correct.
So when one practices bhakti, so he's actually a material person, but when he's getting to know bhakti, he's trying to practice, but still he has some attachments.
Yeah.
He can't give it up.
Yeah.
So we hear lectures and all the devotees speak that we have to give up those things, but we feel so much pain to give it up actually.
That's okay.
Speaking. But how can one do that? One's feeling pain, and at the same time we know that we have to practice bhakti at this certain level, but we can't do that because
the
we
answer
have
is gradually. As with a dimmer switch, I'm looking for the light switch. There's a light switch. Usually light switches are off and on. And then there's another kind of switch. It's called the dimmer switch. So bhakti is like that. Progressively, you have some material affinity. All of us have some material affinity. Here we are in the material world with bodies because we have material affinity. If we had no material affinity, we wouldn't get one of these things. A body and a mind. It's package deal because of desire for stuff. Vishaya. We get a corresponding body to match the desire. Now, how to get there is your question. You move the dimmer switch up, and the darkness is dissipated as you move it up. But the tendency is move it up and then it goes back again. Because we're attached. Because we're attached. We have this affinity and we're attached. We're not attached to the misery, we're attached to the sources of misery. Got it? We're attached to the sources of misery, not to the misery. And we're attached. So you try to dial it up. And even as you're moving the dial up, it starts to slide back again. It's like this microphone stand. Keep moving it up and just keep sagging down. Anyway. Okay. Well, so I'll get to you next. Let me just... No, you're okay. You're okay. There's some waving their arms behind you, so I want to let them know they're recognized. Hang on. So therefore, there's practice. Now, there's this question. Why does it have to be repeated? Why can't just like do it? And that's it. Because we're attached. So because we're attached, in how many lifetimes have we been through it? Too many to count. We don't know how many. The affinity is strong. So it takes some time. But the process is there, which is what your question is. Not the question isn't how long will it take. What's the process? The cleansing process. What's the cleansing process? Make your desire Krishna's desire. Or Krishna's happiness. Make your happiness Krishna's happiness. It takes a while to get there because we have this other affinity. But that's the immaterially impoverished one. So as the happiness is experienced, Krishna's happiness, the happiness of love, which was her question, is experienced in degrees, then the material affinity is dissipated. Darkness is dissipated by light. You have a doubt.
So, till we reach that point, so whatever we are doing, the practice of bhakti, at the same time being attached to the material affinities.
It's simultaneous. It's not first this, then that. It's simultaneous.
So, are we still practicing bhakti while doing the same at the both time?
Say it again, slowly.
Are we still doing bhakti if you are doing this two at the same time? Well,
it's called Mishra Bhakti.
Is it okay to do that?
Yeah, you don't have a choice. And, not but, and with faith, you continue moving the dial, the brightness dial. Light of the Bhagavad, right? So you just keep going to the light, keep going to the Bhagavatam. You keep going to the Bhagavatam, you keep going to, with faith, you'll get there. I'll assume that you have that faith, and I'll also acknowledge that you're right. It's not easy to get there because tendencies are very strong. But you'll get there. Does it require faith? In principle, faith is of the soul. We're going to have faith in something because it's of the soul. And then when it becomes covered, then we're going to have faith in mixed. Just keep dialing the faith in the Bhagavatam and the holy name and the service to the devotees and these very, very potent activities. That's what this very nice section where this very same principle is discussed in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I was just reading it this afternoon, and it's so powerful. It's stronger than the mix. What do you think? Is there such a thing as more powerful than your attachments or mine? Is there such a thing? That's why we're here. And it's taking us a while. That's okay. How long have you been practicing Bhakti Yoga? I'm asking you a question. How long? How many months, years, centuries, lifetimes? Just this lifetime. How long have you been practicing?
For a couple of years.
A couple of years. I've been practicing for 53 years. It's not like I got you beat. I got her certificate. But I can attest from that experience. It's gradual. And it works. And so, I can also attest if you become complacent, this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's word, complacent or slacken in submission, then bhakti becomes weaker and the other stuff starts to fill in. So don't slacken. Easier said than done, but that's the instruction. Don't slacken. It continues submitting unto Krishna. However long it takes. That's how long it takes. You ready? 53 years? You ready? How old are you now? You're 26. So you add 53 to that. See you later. Go ahead, give the microphone back. Last question. This is the last question. You have the honor.
Thank you, Maharaj, for your wonderful presentation. And the question was, you showed the beautiful slides of Yudhishthir Maharaj and Amrish Maharaj and the opulence.
Yeah.
So was your point that Akinchana Gochara, Akinchana is an internal...
Yes.
So it is...
Yes.
And if I can follow up with another question.
Sure.
So internally, if we are not getting there, and if we are serious or sincere, Krishna will make it external also?
No. I mean, he can do whatever he wants. He doesn't have to do anything. He can or not. And he's not whimsical. He gives us what we need, not necessarily what we want.
So internally, if we are not able to get there...
When you say get there, it means pure bhakti, right?
Yes, or give up some attachments, then we can externally give that up?
Well, it sounds like the same question you asked before, and the answer is the same answer. Krishna he's not a cookie cutter Krishna. It's not always this, if it's this, and then it's always that, if it's that. It's very customized. He gives us what we need. And sometimes. But he's the perfect knower, and we just trust in Krishna. Like this little wristband. I belong to Krishna. I trust him. Now supposing we don't trust Krishna. We think something else. It's okay. But I'm pretty smart. So my decision prevails. That's not trust. That's going to be slow boat, slow progress. Now how do you? It's his question. How do you turn the dial? It's another way of saying same question. For each of us, we have our principal activities that bring us purification and spiritual enlightenment. For me, it's Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm a confessed addict. But because it does something, and it's inside. It's not just an activity that's from I like to do. It's inside. It gives strength. It gives wisdom. It gives all kinds of resilience, and it gives spiritual life. I'm a believer. I'm an experiencer, not just a believer. So each of us have things that we like to do that give us strength. So do those and do them for Krishna, just because you like them. And that's bhakti, because it brings happiness to Krishna. That's bhakti. And you cultivate it. You're not there yet. You got this mixed thing going on. It's okay. Who doesn't? So continue moving towards the light, and you'll become fixed in the light. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi.